found. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. Yes, this whole morning we need your help singing. I invite you to be adventurous, sing, harmonize, or don't. Just enjoy yourself, dance, and sing. Love it.
Good morning. I am Steve Brainerd. I'm a member of First Unitarian Society of Denver's Racial Justice Project, and I'd like to welcome all of you into this very dry space. First Unitarian is an urban sanctuary for growing souls in love and service for a century and a half. We've been a cornerstone of liberal religion and justice work in Denver. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you carry joy or sorrow in your heart, you are welcome here. And we're so glad that you've joined us. If you are new to this place, once the service ends, we are not done with you. Please join us in the community room or on Zoom for a cup of coffee and conversation. If you see somebody who seems to be particularly powerful and influential, they are probably holding a yellow mug. That's because they are a member of our board of trustees. You should feel free to embrace the Unitarian spirit by asking them unanswerable questions and challenging their authority. So they'll be happy to chat with you, and the rest of us will be as well. However, our coffee hour today has to be a coffee quarter hour. At 11:15, we will engage in our yearly orgy with Robert's Rules of Order by convening the congregation's annual meeting. If you're a member, you're undoubtedly planning on sticking around to help shape the financial, organizational, and programmatic life of the church. If you're a member watching online, you received a Wednesday email which will guide you in connecting to the meeting. If you're not a member, we're sorry to cut short our chance to get to know you better today, but even though you can't vote, you are still welcome to sit in on this scintillating event. In any case, please keep coming. We'll hope that we can give you reason to join in the fun next year. On behalf of the Racial Justice Project, I'd like to announce a nice development. In December, we conducted a very short campaign, entirely nonviolent, to create a Black Economic Reparations Fund. The $227,000 that we raised, that amount was turned over to the Denver Black Reparations Council to disseminate among ventures and organizations run by and serving Denver's Black communities. After considering about 50 applications, the DBRC has just awarded 15 grants totaling more than $122,000. You can get more information on the recipients in the most recent edition of First Announce. The remainder of First Unitarian's funds, so about another $100,000, will be distributed by the DBRC this fall. We owe great thanks to the DBRC and once more to all of you who contributed to this work. If you were not able to participate in the fund at year end, please stay tuned. We are not done thinking through the ways in which we can continue to pursue anti-racism through economic repair, and we have every intention of finding ways to further support these organizations with which the DBRC has connected us. In fact, on June 28th in the evening, here at First Unitarian, we'll have a chance to meet representatives of these groups and the DBRC. Again, you'll find some details in First Announce with more details to come. Now please make sure your electronic devices are silenced so that we may be fully present at this time and worship together.
Please take a moment to welcome and greet those around you. Welcome, welcome to all of you. No matter who you are or where you are welcome here. Would you please join me in singing our song of welcome? For those of you that this is your first or second time here, we particularly are glad you are here. We are many, we are one. The light of the world is within you. Sacred and worthy is your soul. A place has been made for you. Welcome.
Steve is very tall. Good morning, First Unitarian. My name is Kimberly Urish. I serve on the Endowment Committee, the Reproductive Justice Committee. I sing with the Chalice Singers, who you'll hear today. And I call you to worship with That Which Holds All by Nancy Schaefer. Because she wanted everyone to feel included in her prayer, she said right at the beginning several times names for the holy. Spirit, she said, Holy One, Mystery, God. But then, thinking these weren't enough ways of addressing that which cannot be fully addressed, she added particularities, saying, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Ancient Holy One, Mystery we will never ever fully know, Gracious God, also Spirit of this earth, God of Sarah, Gaia, Thou and Then. Tongue loosened, she fell to naming superlatives as well. Most creative one, greatest source, closest hope, even though superlatives for the sacred seemed to her probably redundant, but then she couldn't stop. One who made the stars, she said, although she knew technically a number of those present didn't believe the stars had been made by anyone or thing, but just luckily happened. One who has an entire ocean of compassion, she said, and no one laughed. That which has been present since before the beginning, she said, and the room was silent. Then, although she hadn't imagined it this way, others began to offer names. Peace, said one. One my mother knew, said another. Ancestors, said a third. Wind, rain, breath, said one near the back. Refuge, that which holds all. A child said water. Someone said Kuan Yin, then womb, witness, great kindness, great eagle, eternal stillness. And then there wasn't any need to say the things she thought would be important to say. And everyone sat hushed until someone said, Amen.
Would you all please rise, body and or spirit? And this one is one we sang earlier in the year. It's called I'm Gonna Lift My Sister Up. And to remind you of it, the choir and me, we're gonna sing it once through for you, and I invite you to join us on the second time through. The words kind of change as we go through it, but that's all up here on the screens for you, but just keep an eye on it. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, I will fall down. Join me. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, I will fall down. Brother, I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not heavy. If I don't lift him up, I will fall down. Neighbor, I'm gonna lift my neighbor up, they are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up, they are not heavy. I'm gonna lift my neighbor up, they are not heavy. If I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, if I don't lift them up, one more time. If I don't lift them up, I will fall down. We're gonna lift each other up. We're gonna lift each other up. We are not heavy. We're gonna lift each other up. We are not heavy. We're gonna lift each other up. We are not heavy. If I don't lift us up, come on. If I don't lift us up, if I don't lift us up, I will fall down. Thank you. Woo.
Hi, good morning. If I can have my assistant make his way up, Gavin. My name is Drew. I am filling in for Aaron and Matt for the Story for All Ages today. So I invite all of those young and young at heart to find a seat right up here. I have a book that we're going to read together today. And while our young ones and young at heart are making it up, I'll make an announcement about next week is a intergenerational service, so there will be no RE programming. Everyone will stay up here together, and we'll have a special guest come. Okay. So I have a very appropriately titled book called Unitarian Universalism is a Really Long Name. And this is a delightful little book. It is also a little bit of a long book. So I am reading an abridged version today. I will not be reading all of the book. If you're interested and want to check it out, it often lives in our peaceful play space corner over there. So I've got my assistant to hold my mic. Okay, great. Thank you. Who are we? Unitarian Universalism is a long name. Why? Because it combines the names of two different religions with roots that go back hundreds of years. Unitarianism and Universalism were both Protestant Christian faiths that had many beliefs in common. And in 1961, they decided to join together to become our faith. Today, we have 7 principles that sum it up. And on this page, we have just the first principle. Each person is important. Be kind in all you do. We're free to learn together and search for what is true. All people need a voice. Build a fair and peaceful world. And we care for Earth's lifeboat. The next page I will read is, what do we believe? As we grow, we never stop learning. We learn about how to be the best people we can be, and these are part of what we call our religious values. Each religion has its own important teachers. Christians learn from the teachings of Jesus, Buddhists from the lessons of Buddha, Unitarian Universalists use from wise teachers of many religions, and from Unitarians and Universalists who came before us. We also learn from teachers from today. Okay, now this is pertinent today because this is what is Sunday school. We call Sunday school religious education, and because we like acronyms, we shorten that to RE. It is one of the most fun and interesting parts of church. Our Sunday school teachers are leaders who help us learn about what it means to be religious people. Children get to ask questions and explore, and they do fun things like talk about stories, play games, and in our basement, a lot of times we get to play with Legos and play on the playground and do all kinds of fun things. The living tradition of our Unitarian Universalist faith began a long time ago, and it keeps growing today. Our faith helps us to remember how important each one of us is as we find our way in the world together. Being a UU means believing that each of us is responsible for living a good life, respecting others, and caring for our world. Thank you for letting us join you on your search for answers about UU. Have a happy journey. Remember to keep asking questions. And will everyone please join me in singing out the children? We'll meet in the back and go downstairs together.
Good morning, First Unitarian. I'm Carol Ruckel, a member of the Giving in Action Committee. As you know, twice a month we bring you opportunities to support nonprofits in our community whose mission and work is compatible with our own. Today, I'm pleased to bring to you a new-to-us organization, Immigrant Pathways. Here to share some of their story is Susan Thornton, who is also my friend of long standing. Susan.
Carol declined to say it was old friends. Thank you for inviting me here this morning. I appreciate it a lot. Immigrant Pathways, I founded in 2009 and I'm co-chair today. And I think the song about lifting our neighbors up was what we're trying to do with Immigrant Pathways Colorado. We're a nonprofit, 501c3, completely community supported, no state or federal funding. No staff, just a hard-working board, so I like to say we're mean and lean. Our major program we call One Immigrant at a Time. We make self-development grants to immigrants, asylees, refugees who are, 1, documented, and 2, have very low income. The grants are designed to lift their standard of living and help the family feel more part of the community, more involved, more at home. And we have an online application form for grants that are up to $1,000. That's our limit. And we have referring professionals who bring people to us, immigrants to us, on this through this web portal, this online application form. And the referring professionals are teachers, nurses, doctors, anybody, church members, any one of you could be a referring professional. And the referring professionals certify to us that they've seen the documents of the immigrant, their pay stub, that they're legally in the country, et cetera. And the grants are for things that involve self-development, like applying for citizenship, which is very expensive, by the way, training to get a commercial driver's license, taking classes to learn English, getting trained as a medical, dental, or a pharmaceutical technician, whatever is the immigrant's dream. And many, now we're seeing a lot of refugees coming in from Ukraine, of course, and Afghanistan, as well as South America. But one of the saddest things is to see so many professionals coming in whose degrees are not recognized here. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, nurses, etc. And they have to start all over again. One example I wanted to share with you is of an Afghan, a young man who was a nurse in Afghanistan. He helped our forces in the war there by serving as an interpreter. He was here with documents. He was working full-time. He was going to nursing school. He was taking care of his wife and 2 young children. And he told me that at 3 in the morning one day while he was studying, he looked at his looming payment for nursing school and just said, I can't go on. I can't do this anymore. And that's when a grant from Immigrant Pathways came through to him, and he was able to continue. And today he's fully qualified RN, BSN, working at Denver Health. And there are so many more stories, but I know you've got a lot of work ahead of you this day, so I'll cut it off there. You can learn more about Immigrant Pathways by going to our website, immigrantpathways.org. And thank you again for inviting me here. Thank you.
Thank you. As you know, the baskets will come around for those of you who are here. Folks at home or elsewhere can log into our website, fusden.org, select Giving, scroll down to Giving in Action, and you can do that with or without a Breeze account. Susan and I will be in the community room for 15 minutes after the service if you have questions or want to chat. Thank you for your generosity.
Repeat after me. We gotta hold everybody up. Would you rise everybody in their spirit? You gotta hold everybody up. We gotta hold everybody up. This song comes from the musician, the prophet, the teacher, Melanie DeMore. She is this amazing human and musician, and if you want to learn more about her and learn more of her songs, we're doing 2 this morning. I hope you go and do some Googling and some YouTubing. We gotta hold everybody. We gotta hold everybody up. We gotta hold everybody. We gotta hold everybody up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up. Let's do that chorus one more time. We gotta hold everybody. We gotta hold everybody up. We gotta hold everybody. We gotta hold everybody up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up. Just because you look like you and I look like me doesn't mean we can't be friends. You're not my enemy. We gotta hold everybody. We gotta hold everybody up. We gotta hold everybody. We gotta hold everybody up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Just one, hold everybody up. People all around the world sometimes feel so sad. But if others know we care, well, things don't seem so bad. We gotta hold everybody. We gotta hold everybody up. We gotta hold everybody. We gotta hold everybody up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up, up, up. Hold everybody up. Woo!
Thank you for holding us all up there briefly. Your contributions freely given this morning are gratefully received. Thank you for your support, your contributions, for your generosity towards Immigrant Pathways. Thank you. On this day of our annual congregational meeting, I want to hold up some of the folks that do a lot of work behind the scenes that rarely get acknowledged, and that would be board members and finance council members and stewardship council members. If you are on one of those committees or even have been in the past, would you just stand up briefly so we could recognize you, the current and former members of those folks who have been involved in our governance? Thank you for all you do. Very briefly, we have been approached by one of our neighboring congregations, the Foothills Unitarian Universalist congregation up in Fort Collins. They are working with an organization called Trans Resistance Network. And what they are attempting to do, Trans Resistance Network, is help trans people who are living in places like Florida and other places where they no longer feel safe to reside. They are helping some of those folks who want to move to some place where it's safer to be who they are, like places like Colorado. So we're being asked to help out with that. This would be probably partnering with a trans person or possibly a family that has a trans individual in that family relocate to Colorado. We would be helping them get situated and that kind of thing. If that is something that you would be part of if you would like to be part of that team, please send me an email. I won't have time to talk about that much after the service today, but send me an email. I'm easy to find. I'm on the website and so on and so forth. So that's what's happening. Please join me in a spirit of meditation, reflection, or prayer. We who gather in this precious, perilous time, we are not just spectators. We are not passersby. We are not outsiders looking in. Remember that the love that will sustain us and everything that we value is part of a larger love that moves through all of creation, and it also moves through you. This love is a gift. It is given freely. It is yours. You can recognize this love and its presence in your body and your spirit by some very simple things. By the warmth that is created when you share your soul with another. By the deep longing that you feel to create balance and peace within you and around you. By a sense of gratitude that you cannot explain. By the sudden insistence of laughter. By the satisfaction to be found in giving of yourself to something that is higher than yourself. Tap into this love. Use this love. Own this love. Use this love to speak the truth. Use this love to call evil by its name. Use this love to speak of comfort to the suffering and of rest to the overworked. Use this love to support, uplift, and strengthen that which is noble and good in this world. Use this love to guide, embrace, and call forth the beloved community. With such a gift as this, we can do no less. Amen.
So now we sing Courage, My Friend. This song has its origins in the South Africa apartheid protest movement. This song would be sung to the protesters that were arrested. It would be sung to them as they were taken to jail, sung to them so that we could remember their names and remember what they sacrificed, and hopefully that they would see them after they got out of jail, along with Nelson Mandela and all those people who worked so hard to change what was happening in South Africa. Would you please rise in body and spirit? Join me in singing Courage, My Friend. Courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Freedom, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Patience, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Justice, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Vision, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home.
All right. So I have a story to tell you, and I plan to be unusually honest. It's not that I'm dishonest when I preach, But like all of us, there are certain potentially touchy subjects that I tend not to poke too hard. We all do this. It's okay. It helps us stay likable people and avoids unnecessary unpleasantness. Today, though, I'm going to avoid very little. There are some matters deserving our attention. And to be very clear up front, I am telling this story from my own perspective. I need to be really crystal clear about that. Others would tell it very differently, and that's okay. The last preface or warning I'm going to give you is to be absolutely clear that not one single thing I say is meant to imply that you agree with me, or even that you should. Everybody clear on those things? All right. Most of you know that Unitarian Universalism has a set of principles and purposes. We have put them up on the screen. Thank you, Diane. They are Article 2 of our national bylaws. They are printed in the front of the gray hymnals, which is within reach of you right now. They are prominent on the website of the Unitarian Universalist Association. They are the core around which dozens of religious education curriculum have been written. They function as an aspirational covenant among Unitarian Universalist people and congregations. I have done 2 sermon series over the years exploring the meaning of each one of them in turn, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and so on. It's important to be clear about what they are and how we think about them. 3 things that I will hold up. First, they are not a theological creed. This will be review for many of you. Nowhere do they say we believe, or we're supposed to believe, or you're going to go to hell if you don't believe. They don't say anything like that. Second, they are explicitly, at least this version, explicitly a covenant. That is, they are a set of aspirational principles that only have meaning in relationship. They are profoundly relational. They are the how of how we aspire to be together in community. Third, they are flexible. They are designed to be changed. As our understanding deepens and our vision expands, we edit those principles to reflect our understanding and our vision as it expands. There have been many versions over the past couple hundred years. I'm only going to go back this morning to 1961. That was the year the American Unitarian Association and the Universalist Church of America institutionally merged to become the Unitarian Universalist Association. Also happens to be the year I was born, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence. At the time of merger, Article 2 of the brand spanking newly written bylaws did not refer to covenant. It was highly patriarchal in language, and it centered the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man. That's a quote. But beginning in the 1970s, as women began entering the ministry in greater numbers, and as feminism began to seep more strongly into our common culture, and as the Unitarian Universalist Women's Federation gained in influence and power, there were increasingly loud calls to revise Article 2, specifically to remove the patriarchal language, but also in response to an increasing religious pluralism in our congregations. There was a need to expand on the theological reference to the Judeo-Christian heritage. And, could we maybe just get rid of that explicit reference to God? Another dynamic happening around that time, this is kind of a perennial issue for Unitarian Universalists. There was a sense around that time that an emphasis on individualism had resulted in a denomination with a kind of a permanent identity crisis. Like if everyone's free to do and believe whatever it is they want, then what on earth holds it all together? So, being a bureaucracy, in 1983, the General Assembly of Unitarian Universalism, at the urging of national leadership, formed a committee. One of my old mentors chaired that committee, the Reverend Walter Royal Jones, of blessed memory now. That committee held meetings and forums, conducted surveys. They made every effort over about 2 years to get as much input as they could from as wide a spectrum of Unitarian Universalists as possible. And this is important to understand. They were not trying to come up with a covenant. They thought they were merely revising the bylaws to reflect an updated, more inclusive identity. They created a draft, they published it, they got feedback, they revised it, they published again, and in 1985, the new Article 2, the principles and purposes we saw earlier, were adopted. That revision in 1985 did two creative and important things. In addition to addressing the patriarchal language and the lack of pluralism. First, they framed the principles as a covenant. That's the language they use. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote that list. At the time, that word was intentionally inserted for exactly this reason. It was intended to encourage a sense of unity among the diversity that we had become. The second thing they did, perhaps brilliantly, is they added a second section to the principles and purposes that we call the sources of our faith. I'm not going to read them. But you see what they did there? By making the principles broadly individualistic, but putting it under the umbrella of covenant, and by making by stating the inclusive and pluralistic sources separate from the covenant, they totally avoided doing any theology or transcendence, and they created something hardly anybody could argue with. Amen? Reverend Jones, when I knew him in the late 1990s and early 2000s, he had retired in Fort Collins by that point. I used to drive up and visit with him. Reverend Jones would shake his wise old head at the ways that Article 2 was later used and misused and put to purposes for which it was never intended. It was Reverend Jones who planted the seed in my own head in the early 2000s to begin questioning what the principles really were and how they functioned in the context of this faith. Now, some of you know this story. Some of you were here. In 2009, I had been minister of this congregation for 7 years. My kids were very small. One of them had special needs, and I was exhausted. I was as close to having a crisis of faith as it is possible for a Unitarian Universalist to get. As I began my first sabbatical that year, many things were on my mind, were bothering me, but I'm going to share two stories to kind of give you a sense of my own state of mind at the time. First story, I was at a meeting of Unitarian Universalist clergy in 2008, clergy who were currently serving congregations. We were, in this meeting, we were taking turns sharing what we believed was the core and the center of Unitarian Universalism. And I watched that group of distinguished, knowledgeable, experienced colleagues go around the room, and every one of them had a different answer. And I remember thinking, oh crap. If this group of people, like this group of ordained professionals, one of whom later became president of our denomination, if this group didn't have a common sense of our center, we didn't have a center. And I didn't say anything at the time, but I was mortified as this realization hit me in a way it never had before. Second story, closely related. I was becoming at that time increasingly unhappy and unsatisfied with the answer that I found myself giving right here at First Unitarian Church to visitors who would come and ask me about Unitarian Universalism. I would say, and I've said this 1,000 times back then, well, we don't have a creed or a statement of belief. It's kind of up to every individual to find what makes sense to them. And sometimes I would point them to the principles and purposes, or something like that. But the people who were coming in then, and the people who are coming in right now, are not looking for a search. That is not why they have come to church. They're looking for answers. They're looking for something to sink their teeth into. They're looking for something that is substantive and salvific to help them get through the week in this weird, troubled world we live in. And I was increasingly feeling like the answer that I was giving to our blessed visitors, to these blessed seekers who were coming to us, I was feeling like the answer I was giving was literally abandoning them at their moment of spiritual need. As close to a crisis of faith as a Unitarian Universalist can get. I hate that answer. That answer of it's up to everybody to find out what makes sense to them. I hate that answer. I have not given it for years, and you will never hear me give it again. Ever. To be blunt, the principles and purposes are lovely. They're lovely. They're wonderful. But they're not enough. They're not. They provide a framework for how to get along in a pluralistic community, but so does kindergarten ethics. They are, to be very blunt, religiously vacuous. Eugene Pickett once said this beautifully. The principles, I'm quoting here, describe a process for approaching the religious depths, but they testify to no intimate acquaintance with the depths themselves. And this is my main issue with the principles and purposes and with the way they are used in Unitarian Universalism, or at least the way they have commonly been used in the last 20, 30 years or so. They imply, without saying directly, they imply that pluralism itself is the center of our faith. But I have concluded that that is about as deep as a puddle in a parking lot, which is to say, not very deep. Religion should be about growing in spirit, in connectedness, in at-one-ment, in wisdom. Religion, when it's doing its job, helps us to live in right relationship, careful those words, right relationship to reality. Interconnected, infused with compassion, at home in this crazy cosmos. And when we do religion right, right? When we get religion right, pluralism will be an outcome. It will be a natural result of getting religion right. But pluralism by itself is empty as a drum religiously. It was shortly after that sabbatical that we put up these banners. There is a unity that makes us one. All souls are sacred and worthy. Salvation in this life. And while we have never, and I have certainly never claimed that these phrases are the be-all, end-all of all theology, these three propositions in my mind, in my opinion, take us a further step. Take us a meaningful step towards the religious depths to which Reverend Pickett referred. They are true to our tradition. They are full of spiritual possibility, and they are how I now answer the question of what it means to be religious as a Unitarian Universalist. So, once again, times are changing, shifting under our feet every day. There are new voices at the table of Unitarian Universalism. And in 2017, something happened that has significantly changed the conversation for Unitarian Universalists. And here I'm going to make a very long and complex story as short as I possibly can. In 2017, the National Association was looking to hire a new district executive for the Southeast region. There were 3 final candidates, all of them unquestionably qualified. There were 2 women of color, and there was 1 white man. And the white man got offered the job. One of the women, Christina Rivera, then wrote an open letter to the Unitarian Universalist Association in which she pointedly accused the association of hypocrisy. For a denomination that makes so much noise about being anti-racist and anti-patriarchal, just where exactly did the rubber hit the road? She pointed to the statistics of denominational leadership, which was overwhelmingly white and male. She pointed out several other instances where qualified people of color had been passed over or even forced out of positions of leadership. There was bitterness in the letter, but mostly it was factual and it was painstakingly clear. That letter got forwarded everywhere. And a lot of righteous people got righteously upset at what had happened. And then, the president of the association at that time, Reverend Peter Morales, wrote a letter in response in which, I'm not kidding, he used the word hysterical to describe how people were reacting to the first letter. Ouch. At that point, as you might guess, the outrage from ministers, staff, and lay leaders across the country was overwhelming, and with only 3 months left in his term, Reverend Morales resigned, recognizing that he had lost the confidence of pretty much everyone. He also managed to really piss off a few people by exiting the conversation that way, instead of staying or having the courage to stay in the conversation, admit his mistake, and try and make it right. At that point, the Board of Trustees, National Board, probably the wisest thing I have ever seen them do, they asked 3 national leaders, all people of color, to be interim co-presidents for the remainder of Reverend Morales' term. And one of the first things they did was to create a commission on institutional change with the charge to examine the practices, the assumptions, the culture, the very structure of the association, to make specific recommendations for being actively and accountably, big word, important word, accountably anti-racist. 3 years later, the commission published this book. It's called Widening the Circle of Concern. It is factual and it is scathing. It identifies numerous ways, explicit and implicit, culture and policy, that unaccountable white-centeredness had been running the association since its inception in 1961. The book makes many recommendations, and it has been central to decision-making at the national level ever since it came out in 2020. That's the shortest way I know how to tell that story. I've left out reams. The Commission on Institutional Change did not recommend revising Article 2, the Principles and Purposes. But we have to understand, from my perspective at least, we have to understand that it was in the midst of all of that that the movement to revise Article 2 has gained traction. And now we have a new draft of Article 2, seeking to replace the Principles and Purposes, and that new draft will be voted upon at the annual General Assembly later this month. If it passes by a simple majority, it will become widely distributed and study action for congregations all over the country, and it'll go back to next year's General Assembly, where it will require a 2/3 vote in order to become the new official Article 2 in the bylaws. There is a link to the final report from the Article 2 Revision Commission. It's been in first announced for several months now. I hope you've had a chance to read it. Here's what they've done. Instead of bullet points like the Principles and Purposes from 1985, they've made a graphic. They have put love at the center, surrounded by the 6 values of interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity. Not shown on this slide, but in the draft of the revision, there is a couple of short paragraphs above this graphic about love being the center of our shared values, and below the graphic are 6 brief paragraphs defining and describing each of the 6 values. You probably won't be surprised to learn there is considerable controversy over this potential change to the Principles and Purposes revision. Can you imagine? Many people are quite attached to the Principles and Purposes. And many people love this graphic. And they feel that specifically naming love as the center of our values is a beautiful and a necessary shift in what they feel has been an overemphasis on intellectualism. I'll share my own initial reaction to the graphic was pretty negative. But as I have sat with it and I've read through it a bunch of times, I've come to see some real value in the new draft. To be honest, though, my biggest problem with the revision is the same as my problem with the Principles and Purposes. It's lovely, but it's not enough. It does exactly what the principles and purposes did, which is to avoid both theology and transcendence. And I've made peace with that. I really have. I understand what they've done, and I understand why. And I remember two things. First, I remember these are bylaws. They are not a definitive statement of our collective religiosity, even if some people have treated them as such. Second, I continue to believe that spirituality and religiosity doesn't happen in bylaws and in statements. Even though those are necessary, religiosity happens in community. It happens in real life. It happens face to face. It happens in relationship with each other, with reality, and with whatever forces there are in this world, divine or otherwise, that create more love and more justice in our hearts and in the world. To me, that's the measure. That's the only measure. That's the measure and the test of any spiritual path. Does it create more love and justice in our hearts and in the world? And if it does, we're doing it right. And if it doesn't, there are no principles, no purposes, or no graphics that can fix that. So I haven't decided yet how I'm going to vote on the Article 2 revision, but here's what I know. At least for now, until something more inspiring, more authentic, more true, more holy occurs to me or arises out of this community, I'm sticking with these banners and the spiritual truths that I believe they represent and point to. These, in my observation, have changed this spiritual community, and I know for a fact they have changed my life. Amen.
We come back to Melanie DeMore. Lead with Love is the name of this song, Lead with Love. When we were talking with Reverend Mike about what songs we could sing with all of you, and we said, how about, what do you think of this one? He said, what this is probably about is cut to the chase of my sermon as you possibly could get with a congregational hymn. Would you please rise in body and your spirit and join me in singing a little bit? We're going to sing it once through, and I invite you to join me after that. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with
Before I give the benediction, I just want to remind you the congregational meeting will start in like 15 minutes. Members, please sign in and get your voting cards in the community room. Be humble, for you are made of the earth. Be noble, for you were born of the stars. And be kind, for you belong to each other. Amen. Our service is ended.